Hi, this is Anubhav and I'm Technical Marketing Engineer at Cisco Systems working for Security Business Unit. This is a short video on Cisco Adaptive Security Virtual Appliance in Amazon Web Services. Cisco ASAv is a virtual form factor of our well-known product Cisco ASA Firewall, and it provides firewall services to AWS users. Before I begin this presentation, let me share agenda. I'll start off this presentation with AWS Overview. I'll talk about Virtual Private Cloud, EC2, and EBS storage. Then I'll move on to our next topic, Cisco ASAv Instances for AWS. I'll talk about management connectivity licensing model use cases of Cisco ASAv in AWS. Lastly, I'll go ahead and deploy Cisco ASAv in AWS environment. Let's begin with our first topic, Amazon Web Services Overview or AWS Overview. AWS is a cloud service provider that offers compute, storage, database, application, and development services. So if you look at this slide on right hand side, you will see a good example of a virtual private cloud. So when you create a virtual private cloud in AWS environment, benefit that you get is you get complete flexibility over that network. You can define your own subnet, you can define your own networking devices, you can control the way your instances will communicate within the VPC or how they are exposed to external world. And then I'll talk about a little bit about EC2 instance. What is a EC2 instance? So it is similar to building up a VM. In case of AWS environment, when you require compute, you spin up EC2 instance. An EC2 instance requires block storage. So whenever there is a requirement of a block storage, you create a EBS drive, EBS volume. So EBS volume, main advantage of EBS volume is that they are replicated automatically within the same availability zone. So in case of a failure, you still have your data. So now let's move on to our next topic, Cisco Adaptive Security Virtual Appliance Instances. Now, when you want to bring up an ASA firewall in AWS, what you generally do is you spin up an EC2 instance and go to Amazon Marketplace and look for Cisco ASAv AMI. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. So as soon as you point that EC2 instance to ASAv image, it will ask you for a question about size of the supported instance. So we do have two instances available at the moment, large and extra large. If you deploy a large instance, you're deploying ASAv 10, and if you're deploying extra large instance, you're deploying ASAv 30. So if you look at this table, it gives you idea about number of supported interfaces, number of vCPUs with each instance, and type of RAM or amount of RAM with each kind of instance. Now at the time of bringing up ASAv, you have option of selecting license mode. You can either go for hourly based license or you can use bring your own license model. Presently ASAv is supported only in routed firewall mode. So now if you create a ASAv, if you create ASAv in AWS environment, your main concern is how exactly you're going to manage it. So our next slide is on the management of the ASA. So we support two models at the moment. First one is direct management access. So by default, when you bring up any ASA or ASA in AWS environment, you will be given a dedicated management interface, and default route will point towards the management interface. Now if you want to have a backup management interface, you can add split routes for management via outside interface as well. Second method is you create a jump box and place it in management subnet and put all your devices within connect all the management interface to that management subnet and access all your devices using the jump box. In this case, default gateway will not point towards management interface, it will point towards outside interface. Licensing model, again, we have two models. First model is bring your own license. You purchase license directly from Cisco, get a token number, use that token number on the device and register your device. Second option is hourly model. So values which are given here are based on the region where that EC2 instance is deployed. Next, moving on to the ASAv deployment models. First model is edge firewall. ASAv can be deployed as an edge firewall within AWS environment. You can have your remote users access your internal servers via ASAv. So you can use this device for access control as well as for NATing. Second model, and the most commonly used model, is remote access and LAN to LAN VPN to AWS. So now presently we see a large number of increase in roaming users. So everybody is looking for any connect solution or a VPN solution for remote users. So when you can deploy ASA, configure any connect on the ASA so that all the remote users can access internal servers via ASAv deployed in AWS. And if you want connectivity between your cloud and your enterprise data center, you can bring up LAN to LAN tunnel between the two. We support management using the traditional ASDM, Cisco Security Manager, or any third-party management tool using a RESTful API. Next deployment model is if you have two VPCs located in different zones, you can bring up one ASA at each location and bring up LAN to LAN tunnel between the two. Last deployment model is VM to VM security. So if you want to secure servers between two subnets, you can configure ASAv in routed mode and have your traffic route via ASAv. Static routes are required on machines, and you should point your next hop towards ASA. Let's move on to our next topic, Cisco ASAv deployment in AWS using day 0 configuration file. So this is our setup. I have created virtual private cloud tenant 1. Under tenant 1 I have two DMZ interfaces, app DMZ and web DMZ. So I have also created two Linux boxes, one in each DMZ, and by end of this lab you should be able to ping from Linux 1 to Linux 2 and vice versa. So in this lab we'll deploy ASAv using day 0 config file. Day 0 config file is a file that you provide at the time of deployment of AWS instance, and at the time of deployment this configuration is automatically enabled in the newly provisioned device. So let's go ahead and log into AWS console, and from there we'll go ahead and deploy ASAv. So now I'm connected to AWS Management Console, and in order to deploy ASAv using day 0 configuration, we'll first verify networking components, and once we have the networking components ready, we'll move to EC2 instance to boot up ASAv. So let's go to VPC first, virtual private cloud. I have already created one virtual private cloud named as tenant 1. Network that I have given to it is 10.0.0.0/16, and I have already provided internet to this VPC by adding Internet Gateway tenant 1-ig is attached to tenant 1. So now we'll look at the subnets as well. So I have three subnets created: T1-web, T1-app, and T1-management. So I would be using these three subnets in order to make this entire lab work. So we have all the network settings configured here. Apart from that, there is a security group feature that is the native security of AWS. What I've done is, instead of controlling security at AWS level, I have just allowed everything on AWS side, and I will handle security policy at ASA level. So I have created a security policy named as T1 allow all, and I'll show you that configuration when we'll move to EC2 instance. So let's go ahead and move into EC2, where I would be booting up new ASAv instance. So before I boot any new ASAv instance, I will go ahead and show you security group that I've created. Security group is T1 allow all. So in this I have allowed everything, inbound and outbound. Let's go to instances. I already have two instances running: Linux Server 1, Linux Server 2. Linux Server 1 is located on app DMZ, and Linux Server 2 is located in web DMZ. Public IP address of these servers are located here. If you want to check private addresses, this is the private address of the server, and this one is the management address. Similarly, for the other server, this is the management address, and this is the production address. So let's go ahead and look at the network interfaces as well. So I have four interfaces, two for management and two for production. I have assigned public IP address on the management interfaces so that these servers are accessible from outside, from internet. This is the elastic IP address page where I have allocated two addresses to servers, Linux 1 and Linux 2. I have one free IP address available with me. I would be using this IP address for ASAv deployment. So let's go ahead and click on instances and deploy ASAv using day 0 configuration. So before that, let me go ahead and create two more interfaces. So one for ASAv app. I'll select application subnet here. I'll assign 10.0.100.240. Under security group, I will select T1 allow all. ASAv-app. I'll create another interface, ASAv-web. I'll put it in web DMZ. I'll assign 10.0.200.20 IP .240 IP address here, and allow everything. So we now have two interfaces created for ASA. I'll go back to instances. Here I will click on launch instance to add new instance to it. Cisco ASAv image is found in AWS Marketplace. Click on Marketplace. Type Cisco ASAv. We have two models: hourly based model, and second one is bring your own license model. So I already have a token with me, so I would be using bring your own license. So I'll click on select. So these two are instances which are presently supported and available. C3 large instance is ASAv v10, and extra large instance is v20. v30. So I'll select this option, extra large, and click on next. On this particular page I will select tenant, then I'll select subnet. I will be putting this in the ETH0 interface in management network, and I'll leave these options as default. I do have a configuration file. So this is how you create a day zero config file. You should have these two lines as comments, and the last line to mention that this is end of the configuration. So I've just given nameif to the management interface, assigned IP address, no shut, created key, allowed SSH on management interface, created a username. So I'll copy this information and go down to advanced details and just copy and paste this configuration here. I will leave default options on the storage side. I would be using default SSD. Tag is name of the device, so I'll be using ASAv 30 day 0. This is just the name. Click on configure security groups. I will select existing security group because I have already created that. Click on review and launch. So this is what I have configured, and I will click on launch. Again, it will ask for secure the key pair. So I already have this key pair saved on my computer, so I would be using the same key. You can create your new key and save it. I'll click on launch. So it will take 2 to 3 minutes to launch this instance of ASAv. So I will go back to instance again. I will attach new interfaces as well. I will attach app interface first. Then I will attach web interface. So we now have 3 interfaces on ASA. This is 250.135 is management interface, 200.240 is web DMZ, and the other 100.240 is app DMZ. So 2 things we need to take care of. We'll go ahead and disable source and destination check globally on the device, and then we'll go to network interfaces. Look at the interfaces here, change security settings, source and destination check disabled from both interfaces. And this is the third interface that was created automatically, so I'll name it as ASAv MGMT. So let's see if device is already initialized or not. It is not. It is taking some more time. So I'll go to elastic IP address. I will associate this IP address to our new ASA. I'll make sure that I'm using the management interface to associate it. Click on associate. Now I'll pause this video for a couple of minutes. Let this status from initialization to L2 check OK. So I'll just pause it and wait for this to change. So welcome back. So now ASA status is green. We can now SSH and try. So let me open command line real quick. Let me open command line real quick and then we'll do it. So let me copy IP address of this ASAv from here. So this is the location where I have my key pair. I'm now connected to my ASA. So presently I have management interface which is configured as a DHCP client. So I will now go ahead and configure interface gig 0/0 nameif app security level. I'll give it 100, IP address 10.0.100.240 255.255.255.0. We'll do a no shut here. Interface gig 0/1. Do nameif web security level 0, IP address 10.0.200.240/24. No shut. I'll just check show run interface now. I have all the three interfaces configured. Let me do show IP. Have IP assigned. Show nameif just to see security levels. Now I'll create access list 101 permit IP any. I'll place this access group 101 in interface app. I'll place same ECL in web interface as well. I'll do a right mem. Show IP. Let me see if I can ping my Linux box 10.0.100.10. Yes, I can ping it. Let me ping Linux box 2. So Linux box 2 is also reachable. Show run policy. Show run policy map, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll add inspect ICMP as well. I'll save this configuration. I'll go to my server 1. I'll type ifconfig. My server 1. ifconfig eth1 10.0.100.240. Firewall is reachable from here. I'll go to Linux server 2. ifconfig eth1. Let me ping 10.0.200.240. Yes, firewall is reachable. On Linux 1 server, I will check route. So I have specified route for 10.0.200.0/24 network, and I've pointed it to firewall. Let's go and verify it here. For 10.0.100.0/24, next hop is firewall. So let me initiate ping for 10.0.200.24 20 from Linux 1 server. From Linux 1 I'm pinging Linux 2. Yes, it is reachable. We go back to firewall, type debug icmp trace annul. Traffic is coming from app interface and it is going towards web interface. Let me stop this ping and try ping from web to app now. 10.0.100.10. Yes, it is pingable. Debug icmp trace annul. Yeah, so traffic is now coming from web and it's going to app DMZ. So let me do a show run. So we have interface configuration, we have ACL, it is applied to the interfaces, and this information here and username admin, it took it directly from day 0 configuration file. So basic advantages of using day 0 config file is you can create a config file at the time of creating instance and you can boot your instance with required configuration. So that's it for day 0 configuration file. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.